I want welcome back. This is day 4 of the AI Agents Assemble Hackathon. Very excited. We have crossed 5,000 registrations, so it's going to be a fun week. I know a lot of people are going to be hacking over the weekend. So yeah, I'm very excited. Wrapping up the year with a big event before the holidays. I'm very excited to see. So in this one, we are joined by Matt, who is from Vercel, and Vercel is one of our big sponsors as well for the hackathon, and that's where you're going to be deploying your projects. I personally use Vercel as well. The VMake Devs website is hosted on Vercel, uh, if you didn't know. But no, it's a pretty cool project, and a lot of friends I have at Vercel as well, who are doing some amazing stuff in the community. Do you know Pauline?
Yes, I do. I do. I work with her a lot.
Yeah, yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, a lot of nice people work at the company. It's an amazing tool. So that's what we're doing in this stream. Matt is gonna do a nice demo, show you the bits and pieces of Vercel, and from a hackathon point of view, how you can get started for free, the free tier, and also, yep, it's being recorded, so people, I know they are joining from different time zones, so you can watch the recording later as well. If you have any questions, you can join the Vercel community. The link can be found on the Hackathon website. And then also you can ask your questions in the chat right now, and I'll make sure we ask those questions to Matt at the end. Matt, you want to do a quick intro and take it away? I'll share your screen.
Yes. So, hi, everybody. I'm Matt Lewis. I work on the partnerships team at Vercel. That means I work with all of our tech partners, all of our system integrators. And in college, I actually organized hackathons. I love hackathons. And so today, I kind of just want to go over like, if I was about to do a hackathon, what do I need to know about Vercel? What do I need to know about V0? And what tools are available to just hit the ground running and really build something cool, iterate fast. So the first thing to start with is just our templates page. I remember, being in hackathons in college, sleeping on the floor. I spent, you know, 6 hours one time just trying to get the Spotify API to work, and I could have just started from a template. So I want to highlight this vercel.com/templates. We have, I think, over 500 uh, from all different types of use cases, frameworks, database, anything you're kind of looking for. This is a great place to start. So, not just Next.js, but if this is, focused on AI, we do have our AI chatbot right here. This is going to come with all the boilerplate for creating a chatbot, working with the AI SDK, working with our gateway, so you can get access to any sort of model. And I'll just show a quick demo right here. So out of the box, you're going to get this sweet UI. I And then you're going to have all of these components that we've open sourced. So we have a lot of like uh, base components for building with AI. Human in the loop components, feedback, streaming, all of that good stuff. Part of this template also available at the AI SDK website. But other than I want to just walk through, how do I get started? How do I really get working? And I am not able to see the chat right now, but if there are any questions, feel free to just interrupt, and I'd love to ask them as they or answer them as they come in. So I'm going to move over to just a blank Vercel team. So Vercel.com, you get started today. We do have a free tier, also a pro trial when you sign up. And this is sort of the central point to anything you're looking to create. You'll see, I have nothing here, but there's a couple ways to get started. The first one, add new project. And if I click here, like I mentioned, we have all of our templates available. You can select one and get started and deployed very fast. But you can also connect to GitHub. And here you can see all the hackathon ideas I've had in the past that have gone on to die and just collect dust. But anyway, so I'm gonna just start with the Next.js boilerplate, and you'll see here if I can just select, like, where I want this repository to live, what I want it to be named. I can make it public, I can make it private, and then I also just select a team. And this is probably the fastest way. I've already deployed this probably 1,000 times because I've given this demo many, many times. But as soon as I click create, this is like the fastest way to get started. Vercel is going to clone that template, detect what framework it is, and then our zero config infrastructure gets started. So you'll see we're going to build out a very basic Next.js starter template. It's going to take care of all the infrastructure I need to get started. And it's not just Next.js. So multiple of your favorite frameworks, Svelte, Nitro, Ano. I think there's like 35 to 40 supported out of the box. And just by deploying to Vercel, I'm going to get all of this included. So things like observability, where are the errors, where's the traffic. Probably not like too important for a hackathon, but super cool tool. But more importantly, I have my deployment available right here. And all I had to do is select my template or my GitHub repository. Automatically, I get this publicly available domain. So I'm going to click this, and you'll see I have a website on the internet available to everybody. I also have the ability to create preview deployments, and this is going to be very helpful when it comes to iterating quickly. So if I open this up, I'm just going to open this in GitHub, and I'll do all my coding just from the web editor. If you didn't know, you can click or you can press the period button, and this will open on GitHub from any repository. But real quick, I'll just show how to kind of like iterate quickly. I'm currently on the main branch, but I'm going to change over to just, Matt Lewis, add new feature. So I'm sure you're all used to, using a Git-based workflow. But what's really nice here is I'm going to make a code change. So I'm going to say, to get started, edit the index.tsx file. And then I'm just going to commit this real quickly. And since I've connected to Vercel, every commit on any branch becomes a deployment. Now that's super helpful because you're able to test things on the live web, share them with your team, and you don't have to worry about getting in each other's way. So if I come back to Vercel, we're going to see automatically a preview deployment was created. And we get a domain for the branch. So this is going to update anytime you push a commit to this branch. But then you also have a domain associated with this commit. So both of them are always available, and they don't go away until you delete the branch or delete the deployment. And you don't really have to worry about any sort of costs because it's all usage based. You could have a million preview deployments, and if no one's visiting them, it does not matter. But, anyways, you'll see the same build process runs, but now I have a live URL for that change we made. So edit this index.tsx. Very simple code change, but you can imagine this with any framework and any sort of code change you make. You're going to get a production deployment and a preview deployment. And then if you merge a pull request or commit to that main branch, your production deployment will automatically update, build and deploy. So that's really easy or really great when it comes to moving fast. But we also might have, a develop database and a production database, you can very easily set all of your secrets through the environment variables tab, or yeah, tab. So you can see I'm on this project, on the settings, and I have environment variables. And then I'm able to select, which environment do these apply to? All of them, just production, just local dev, and all of your automatic CI/CD respects this. So I can come here and say, database URL equals something, but only for production. I click save, I redeploy my app, and that's available in my node process or whatever runtime I'm building with. So you also have the option to create custom environments. Out of the box, we give you production preview development, but you can, create a custom, maybe staging environment and assign it to a branch. All of the things we've demoed so far, but this is just your way of saying like, hey, this is a custom one. Could be helpful. You might not need it. And then finally, all of those preview deployments are protected with deployment protection. So if I go back to this preview URL and I open it, you might have seen a very quick um, authenticating with Vercel on that first time we visited. That's preview protect, like we protect those deployments automatically. Um, This also means if you're building an API, this is something that might trip you up, and you're making requests to a preview deployment and you're getting back um, like a 400 response, or you can't figure out why can't I access this preview deployment. Remember, this is on by default. You can completely turn it off if you want to. You can, well, depending what tier you are, you can also set it to all deployments. If you need to interact with a preview deployment, you can use this super helpful feature. So this is your way of attaching a header or a query parameter with a secret, and that allows you to bypass that protection. Um, I have spent too much time debugging why I'm getting the responses I am, and all of it was just I had this protection on. Okay, so we covered, deploying via template or a GitHub repo. Um, I also want to go over some integrations. So we're in a hackathon, we're moving fast. Hey, we need a database. Hey, we need a Redis database. We have that available, and you're able to connect it very easily. So on my project page, I have this storage tab. I can come here and click create on any one of these providers that I need. So let's say, I want to use Supabase. I click create. I'm gonna have here where I can create a new account. I'm not, I'll do it. I might have run out of test accounts, um, but I can create an account I already have with Supabase. And I'm gonna select the free plan right here. I'm gonna click continue. I can name it something. And what's really nice is that when I create this database, it automatically adds all of the environment variables I need to interact with it. So once this finishes, I'm going to go back to the environment variables and we'll be able to see all of these were added. You know, you're watching this, I'll show them to you. I'm not going to use this database. I'm going to delete it after this call, but if you happen to try to use it, you know, that I can't stop you. Um, so we come back to those settings and environment variables. We'll see, oh, these are our shared ones. I just need to select my project. That's a good, you can have shared environment variables, so available to any project on your team. But you'll see that we had, oh, I need to connect. Yes. So I'm going to connect. I'm going to connect it to this project. And that's my way of adding all of those secrets to my project and forth between the two apps. So now I have a database. I can go use something like Prisma or Drizzle, and they have very good documentation on how to get started using Next.js with one of those ORMs and Supabase, Neon, whatever it is you're using. So we have an app, we have a database, but we always need to use some AI. We have a couple great options here. The first is our AI gateway. So this is your ability to interact with multiple different models. We have a list of them right here with one API key um, and using the AI SDK. So I can create an API key here. All of the teams have a $5 credit by default. And all I have to do is pass in a string of which model I want to use. And that's all I have to do. I now have access to all of these amazing models. We do have some templates for getting started. So, a gateway demo, an embeddings demo, as well as some integrations as well. So if you have one of these already, you can add it the same way that I did with that database. Um, that's a quick kind of like getting started with Vercel, all of the tools I would reach for if I was building for a hackathon. We do have, some analytics, some core web vitals, and a firewall. I don't know if you'll need this for a hackathon. It is there available on all tiers. But I'm not gonna spend much time there. And then also feature flags. So if you do want to use feature flags, we have both a marketplace and an SDK. Cool. So that is, a quick run through of getting started with just deploying, adding storage, adding integrations. But I also want to show V0 and the AI SDK. So V0, you might be familiar with, is our tool to turn any prompt into a web application. I wish I had this at all of the hackathons I participated in, but this is honestly where I would start. I would start by coming up with the idea that of what I want to build and ask V0 to start iterating on that idea with me. Whether it's how do I create the infrastructure, like what will I need to build something like this, or help me create the UI or some wireframes of how people interact. So let's pretend I'm at a hackathon and I say, I want to build an agent that helps me prepare people for hackathons. I'm able to select a couple different models here, but V0 is going to get started creating this first initial prototype for us. We're going to see, some of the thoughts it has. Maybe it's going to follow up with some questions about what you're building to try to make it better. You'll see right here, like what should I help with? I'm going to say let's help with team. Let's create an app for forming. I know that was one of the hardest parts of organizing. Um, so after V0 does some thinking, it's actually going to create this app for us. And we'll have access to the full code base. We can automatically deploy to Vercel. We can take advantage of everything I've showcased so far inside of V0. So things like adding a database, you can add a Stripe account. Um, You'll see right here under Connect, we have all of those same integrations. So you have Stripe, you have some AI providers, you have those database. And then you also can connect to Git. Um, this will probably be super helpful. You can start with V0, kind of formulate your idea, build out some of the initial UI, and then you can sync that code to GitHub and start working with any code editor that you're used to building with. Um, and then if you start with V0, you actually will have that two-way sync between your code editor or your GitHub repo V0 and your code editor. Once this finishes writing the code, we can see some of it here as it's being streamed in. It's going to create some images. It's creating some components. And like I said, we'll have full access to this code base once V0 is finished building. And while that's being built, I'll showcase a couple other settings. So as I mentioned, you can publish this. So right here, you can add a custom domain. You can add either a domain you own or anything .vercel.app. You can switch to visibility, so you can make this public. And you'll also have the ability to password protect if you want to. So V0 is finished. We get this nice preview here. It is loading in right now. We have access to, everything that V0 was thinking about, some of the files that it created, and also all of the work that it did. So here, find your perfect hackathon team. This is a live web app. I can click, I can browse, and I think this really helps you move fast because this you didn't have to design all of this. You really are just trying to, is this a good idea? Should I pursue this? And I have this rich interactive app just to get started with. So, let's say we started here, we created our app. You can download all of this if you want to. That's probably like a very quick way to get the code. But as I mentioned, I can also um, connect this straight to GitHub. So right here, I have Git. I'm going to connect. I'm going to create a new repository. And V0 also respects a typical Git-based workflow. So you can check out, you can, just use the main branch. You can use feature branches, and you'll have the same thing you're used to when working with your code editor. So now I have this GitHub repo. I'll open it up. You'll see we have this here. I'm able to clone, work in my code editor, and any changes that I push to this repo, I have access to, and our V0 preview will update. So you can see here, I have some details, but I also can like pull changes in whenever they occur. Um, So yeah, that is like I mentioned. I would start with V0. It really helps to create the idea, find out, is this worth pursuing? Here's some quick UI. You don't have to really spend too much time creating the UI, and you can really move fast. We also have design mode. So this is your ability to use similar to like Figma. You can select items on the page and edit them uh, as you would. You can also create a design system. And I like to mention, we don't have to use AI for everything. You know, we still are able to come in here and, maybe select this and change the fonts. We don't have on prompting to make small changes for us. Um, so yeah, that's a quick run through of V0. You have environment variables. These will sync with your Vercel project. Um, so when I created this GitHub repository, I also have a project in Vercel that is um, linked to this V0 project. So we've already been here. We've seen everything we can do with the Vercel tool, and we can also use V0. The two are very tightly integrated. And then the last thing that I want to cover is the AI SDK. So I heard, we're building an AI hackathon. This makes it very, very easy to get started and build with AI. We have those elements that I talked about. So this is that open source code, similar to like a ShadCN, if you've used that, where we've built out multiple different components that we think are useful when building with AI. So things like, chain of thought, what is currently happening, what is the agent working on, or maybe we have, some workflow. So a canvas, if I want to be able to help people drag and drop and create workflows, prompt input, many, many good components here to get started building with AI, as well as both docs, so how to use this SDK, but also a cookbook. So this is our way of saying, are you building a computer use agent? Are you building a RAG agent? As well as recipes. So these are our opinionated ways of how you should do this type of interaction. So I want to chat with PDFs. And here is example code, as well as documentation about like how to do this with the AI SDK. Finally, I would say the V0 is also an expert with this SDK. So if you are using V0 and you say, hey, I want to build this chat agent, it will use the AI SDK. And you can ask it to build out any sort of these features that are listed here. Um, so yeah, I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions. That was a quick run through of the things I would want to know if I was joining a hackathon, building with AI and deploying on Vercel. So now I'll just open it up to any questions we might have. I can dive back into any topic or showcase any part of the product if you want me to. Um, but yeah, I believe the chat the right place for questions?
Yeah, I'll put the questions on the screen,
Okay.
so you can see the questions and answer those. Thanks for the presentation, by the way, Matt. Let me just see. You're going to see questions on the screen. Um, yeah, your
Mhm.
hackathon video has to be 3 minutes. Vercel is really good. Vercel UI is awesome. Vercel is an excellent platform. But oh, there's a question
Thank
on the
you.
screen.
Okay. But when I deploy I notice that people cannot view it without logging in first. Yes. So this is that deployment protection that we talked about earlier. So by default, we protect deployments, preview deployments, because you might have something in a preview that is not ready for the public. So if you share a preview deployment, we have to have someone log in to ensure they are part of that Vercel team. But I will also show that you can, um, let me find the right tab. You can create links so that people that aren't on your Vercel team can still view it. So if I open up this preview deployment, we have the Vercel toolbar right here, and I can create a shareable link. Let me find the right uh, switch branch. Oh, here we go. Yeah, share. I can set this to anyone with the link, and this is going to give me a unique link I can share with anyone, and they will be able to bypass that preview deployment protection. Or if you want to, you can turn it off. It's up to you. But this is a secure way of sharing those preview deployments. Cool. And then I see I have some comments here. Or here we go. Is there any fix or setting that allows the project to be publicly viewable without requiring users to log in. Yes, so I can show you that setting again. Let me share my screen. So on our project, so here's my team, and then I'm going to go to my project. Under the settings, I have deployment protection, and I can just completely turn it off. This will allow any deployment, preview, and production to be accessible to anyone. You can just completely disable it. And then a pro or pro trial, you can also use password protection. So that is a simpler way of sharing. Cool. Let me see. Can I run cron jobs on Vercel? Yes. And this is a part of the platform. So, but like a bit heavy crons like scheduling multiples. So if you were to do this, we actually have there's two things that I would highlight here. First, we recently announced workflows. So this is our solution to durable TypeScript functions. This means you can do things like start a workflow. Maybe you have something like when a user signs up, you send them an email, and then 2 weeks later, you want to follow up with, asking for feedback. We have a workflow SDK that allows you to do things like sleep for 2 weeks. And then after that time has passed, we save the state of the function. And so we know which user you're trying to sue. We also have cron job scheduling. So I will show you that real quick. I'm going to bring up my screen again. So this is our documentation right here. It's available on all plans. Um, we have a config file that you essentially just use this expression to say, I want this function to happen every 5 minutes, you know, every day of the month, or maybe this hour of the month, of that day of the month. And yeah, so if you just search Vercel cron jobs, you'll have easy access to this documentation here. All right. Let's see. I saw a question popped up. I didn't see it. Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you don't have to use AI, but I mean, then you won't be able to apply to other tracks. So if you want to increase your chances of winning, I would say the other sponsor tools are also quite awesome, and everything goes well with everything. So, and if you have any questions, if you get stuck somewhere, this is what hackathons are all about, to
Mhm.
get out of your comfort zone and try out new technologies. So yeah, I'm using Vercel from past 2 years for my personal and my business projects.
Awesome.
Cool. You can use the free Vercel platform. Yeah. Okay. Link to the
Thank you,
hackathon is
guys.
in the. Just go to wemakedevs.org. So
Oh,
the
great
question.
question. Yes, domains. So, uh, my friend Reese has recently been working very, very hard to build probably one of the best domain buying products I've seen in quite some time. So, from either our project, our team page, project page, you can go to the domains. Um, And this is where you can add a top level domain, a subdomain, you can buy a domain. So by default, let's say I want to add a domain and name it like Matt's Hackathon Project. This might be taken, but I don't own the .com, and I don't really want to spend money to get the .com. I just want to create a nice domain for my project. If you do .vercel.app and this isn't taken yet, you see I now have this domain added to my project. And if I click it, which I just did, I'm taken to that Next.js project we created. So that's a really nice way of getting a good domain without spending money. But if you do want to, we have this really great domain, both a great place to find a domain as well as buy a domain. And it's crazy fast. So let's say I'm looking for Matt's hackathon project, and then we will see, some top results, some suggestions, and then there's a cool ability to also like use AI to find things that are similar. But I'm not gonna buy anything right now, but let's see what's available. Matt's dot site is pretty cool. So I can just add this. Oh, I'm on a test account, so I don't have any cards, but I can easily buy a domain and connect it to my project. Also, when it comes to building a software as a service, you probably want to do a multi-tenant type of solution using subdomains. And we also have a great template for this. So we have multi-tenant software as solution documentation, as well as a template. If I go to vercel.com/templates and I search SaaS, we can see we have a really awesome template getting started. So this will let you do something like matt.hackathon.com. And then any user can have a really cool subdomain to use your app. So, matt.hackathon.com, drew.hackathon.com. And this template showcases how to do that very easily with Vercel. Yes, Vercel does have some awesome products. It is more than just hosting, and I really wanted to kind of showcase a quick run through of like, hey, what is helpful for a hackathon? So thank you for that feedback. Does V0 also give a React Native mobile app screen? It does not give you a React Native preview, but if I switch over to V0, we have the option to preview it on a phone. So right here, I have this preview, and that is how I can see what this app would look like at different screen dimensions. V0 is also really great at um, doing this. So if you do have a issue, you can say something like "make this mobile responsive," and V0 will help you with that. Cool. Let's see. When deploying to Vercel, do I need special config for environment variables, or does it just pick it up automatically? So any environment variable that you set in your um, project. Let me find the right tab. I've got a bunch of them now. So any environment variable that you set here is automatically available to your production and preview deployments. So there's nothing special you need to do. And so you are able to do the typical like process.env.name of your secret. If you're developing locally, we have a great CLI where if you set environment variables in Vercel, you can actually do something called Vercel env pool. And this will pool any environment variables you have set in Vercel to your local machine. And it'll create a .env.local file for you. So it's super helpful to set all your environment variables, go to your code editor, and just pull them all in. You don't have to copy and paste back and forth. Cool. Okay, so what's the recommended project structure for scalable Vercel apps? And are there any anti-patterns you see teams repeat? Um, so by default, if you're just building a like one Next.js app, it is full stack, so you can build, serverless functions, you have API routes. Um, if you're just deploying a single app, I would just follow what feels right to you for like organizing your code. Our templates do a really great job of showing good patterns of how to organize the code base. Um, Vercel is very it's zero config and it's framework defined infrastructure. So following best Next.js practices will mean that your Vercel deployment is also following best practices. But if you want to, let's say, build a Next.js front end, and you also want to build a backend API using something like H3 or Nitro, I would recommend a monorepo approach. So we have a really cool product called Turborepo, and this allows you to build really awesome monorepos. It allows for like really fast builds, and we have a lot of different templates using this as well. So I actually, let me see if I have one deployed. Essentially, in a monorepo, all of your code lives in one repo, but you have different projects, and each one of those projects can be a different project on Vercel as well. So you could build like a front end that is your app. You could build another app that is your marketing site, and then you could also build a back end that powers an API that your users can use. Cool. Any tricks for faster deploys? Turborepo has a really cool feature called remote caching. So this means that, let's say you run a build on your local machine and then you push those changes to Git, you're pretty much about to run the same exact build. So why repeat the work? And we have remote caching. So that means if I run the build on my laptop and nothing changes between the time I did that on my laptop and I'm about to run the build on Vercel, we're able to use those cached files. So your deployment, your builds could be incredibly fast. Um, when it comes to Next.js, build times usually, if you're using, something like generate static params, that means you're like doing a lot of compute at build time. That might lead to longer build times. For a hackathon project, I wouldn't really worry about it. You have to have a very, very large application for this to impact. And um, I think, like I mentioned before, if you follow best Next.js practices, Vercel will also be set up for success. Cool. The next question is, does best practice change between app router and pages router? Anything specific we should tune before shipping? Yes. So, app router was introduced in Next 15, I believe. It uses React Server components. So React created a really cool feature called React Server Components. But we also have the pages router. That's your traditional Next.js Git server side props. You can use both, and both are still have that zero config deploy to Vercel, and both do have unique best practices, but also share some best practices. Um, so App Router is really just focused on less JavaScript to the browser, whereas Pages Router still allowed you to generate at build or on demand, but you still had to send some JavaScript to the browser if you had dynamic pieces of your app. Cool. All right, the next one, best way to handle edge versus serverless functions. how do we decide which parts of app should run where? So in App Router, we've talked a bit about moving. We did in the past talk about edge functions for rendering, and we ran that experiment. We realized this isn't actually the best way to do it, but the edge is still useful for things like personalization, routing, experimentation. And the difference here is that if you have a user, I'm in Florida right now, and let's say my database is in San Francisco, uh, but all I really want to do is route the user to a different page based on their language, what they're speaking, English, Spanish, Chinese, whatever language they speak. Instead of doing that work in San Francisco, which is further away, and we still are limited by the speed of light, I can make that decision at the edge. So that decision might happen in a data center closer to me. So Miami. And that just allows those faster user experiences. So the edge is great for, personalization, routing, experimentation. In the newest Next.js version, it's called proxy. Before it was called middleware. And then things like interacting with the database, doing like workflows, large scale compute, that is better for the origin. Um, all of your caching happens at the edge though. And by default, Next.js lands you in this pit of success so that you don't have to think about this unless unless you want to change those defaults. I saw a question. Let's see. Sometimes my Vercel preview works, but production breaks. They could be a lot of things. Uh, um, I will show some ways to kind of debug this. I'm going to share my screen again. So let's go back to that project we have. So each deployment will have a summary as well as logs. So anytime you deploy, you can come to your build logs and see maybe there's an error here. Maybe you're missing an API key or you weren't able to connect to your database. All of that information is here, as well as a summary of what was deployed. So I can see all of the files as well as the functions that was deployed. So this is probably my first place to look is the build logs as to what is happening. Um, and then we also have logs here. So these are runtime logs, meaning what's happening after you've deployed the application. And I can filter by error as well and see any sort of errors that might be happening here. So that's kind of how I would debug a deployment. Awesome. Any tooling to inspect cold starts or function performance? Yes, definitely. So first, I got to highlight we released Fluid Compute. Um, this helps with kind of eliminating cold starts, but you do have the observability tab, and this is your window into everything that is happening on your application. Um, I don't have any data because I haven't interacted with this site here, but you do have this right here where I have this card here, and if I click this card, I get even more metrics about what might be happening when it comes to hot and cold starts or functions. And then all of these tables will also update, and then you can also explore with a query. So this is how you really drill into what is happening with your application and how you can make it better. Um, and then also, we do have V0. So V0 also is an expert here and can help you debug what's happening and how to make your application faster. Cool. If my app uses multiple APIs, how do I manage them cleanly on Vercel? So if if I assume this means like, hey, we are connecting to, maybe the Shopify API and the Contentful API, and then also um, maybe a search provider. So you would, if you're using like Next.js, you can, as I mentioned, put all of your environment variables under those settings. And I would I would create depending on what I'm doing. So if I am using React Server components, I can just call those functions directly on the component to fetch whatever data is needed. If I don't want to use that approach, you can also create API routes in your Next.js function to query that to try to get any information from a third-party API. I also will quickly show that in observability, you can click external APIs and look at all of the data from the third-party APIs that you are querying. And, are they cached? What sort of latency are they adding? So that's a good way to debug and optimize those. Cool. Let's see. Is deploying different in Linux-based hosting service and Vercel different? I've only used React. I've only used Vercel for React so far. So Vercel is managed infrastructure, meaning you do not make the decisions of, which operating system your uh, your server, your machine is running. Um, if you are deploying React to a self-managed server, or more, maybe if you're deploying Next.js, like we do have docs on how to do that. Um, but yes, it would be different. If how much load can a free deployed version of Next.js on Vercel can handle? Yes, so on the free tier, on all tiers, we automatically handle scaling your application up and down. The difference is that on the free tier, you have a very generous limit of how much usage you can have. Um, and your application may be paused if you go over that amount. It's very large, and we do send you emails to let you know, like, "Hey, you're at 50% of your usage, you're at 80% of your usage," because we really don't want to interrupt what we call your viral moment. So if you build an awesome app and, like, overnight it has millions of people visiting it, we don't want to impact that. We want you to have that, you know, awesome moment where you have this viral application. On the pro tier, you have on-demand billing. So like if you go over an amount, you just have like on-demand usage pricing. And then on enterprise, you have a contract that, we help build with you. I don't really want to get too much into the sales of enterprise for this call. Um, okay, so does Vercel have a backup feature for the databases? So Vercel does not host your database. We host the infrastructure, the functions that interact with your database. If your functions fail, so let's say that there's an outage in a data center, Vercel does automatically fail over. So if US East 1 goes down, your application will still continue to serve production traffic, and we will just automatically over to the nearest available data center region for your application. But we don't host the database on Vercel. We just interact and integrate with those database providers. Awesome.
Cool. And we are closing in on 1 hour. So just to be cautious, everyone. By the way, we have a 943 people watching live. So that's cool. And a lot of good questions. I was just sitting back and
Yeah.
managing the chat because it's a bit chaotic. But I see some questions are still here, but you can join the Vercel community, ask your questions there. As a reminder, all the links can be found on the website. Big shout out to Matt for being so patient and answering all the nice questions. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. A lot of Vercel fans in the chat as well.
Yes. Thank you guys all for joining, and thank you for all the great feedback. Thank you for all the great questions. And yes, community.vercel.com, great place to get questions answered and just interact with the community building on Vercel.
Cool. Yeah, amazing. Well, see you in the next one. We will see you in Discord, and good luck on the hackathon. Please do submit your price track for Vercel, as I mentioned again and again. Like you can, Matt, you're getting shout outs. Yeah, you can submit to
Thank
multiple
you.
tracks to increase your chances. And yeah, getting started with Vercel is super easy. So do recommend using it and applying for the Vercel track. Cool. See you in the
Awesome.
next one.